Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the business is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, our best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host and White House correspondent, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, reporting for duty. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand. Or if you're watching on YouTube, hey, YouTubers. How you doing? And don't forget, you can also listen by just telling Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you won't miss some of our most memorable conversations. Now, listen, just right before we hopped on air, some news breaking. NBC News reporting that the White House and China have finalized their deal to sell the U.S. TikTok business to investors backed by Trump. The United States and China, again, have signed off on a deal that would hand control of TikTok U.S. operations to a group of investors backed by President Donald Trump. This is according to a number of White House officials. The deal comes just ahead of a deadline that the Trump administration had extended several times. You might remember that last month, the TikTok CEO told employees that the company's Beijing-based owner, ByteDance, had signed binding agreements to create a joint venture for the app in the U.S. The deal, facilitated by the Trump administration, means that the U.S. version of TikTok, it will become majority owned by a group of investors that includes the American tech giant Oracle, the California-based private equity fund Silver Lake, and the United Arab Emirates investment firm MGX. Trump also told reporters last year that the investors involved in the deal are, quotes, all very well-known people, very famous people, actually financially. And he touted in September that TikTok will be American operated all the way. So ByteDance gets to keep 19.9% stake in the U.S. operation. That's all according to TikTok deal memo from December. So to all the TikTokers out there, TikTok is under new management. In other news, Trump is suing J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon for closing his bank accounts. If it sounds petty, maybe it's because it is. President Trump just today sued JP Morgan Chase and Company and its CEO, Jamie Dimon, accusing the bank of dropping Trump as a client for political reasons after the January 6, 2021 attacks on the U.S. Capitol. The lawsuit, which was filed in state court in Florida, seeks $5 billion. That's right, $5 billion with a B in damages and other costs. Trump's attorneys argue that the president and his companies, quotes, suffered considerable financial harm and losses after JP Morgan on February 19, 2021, gave a 2-month notification that several bank accounts Trump controlled would be closed. The lawsuit describes a, quote, devastating impact for Trump by JP Morgan, denying him the ability to access money in the accounts and having to enter into less favorable business arrangements with other financial institutions. The lawsuit alleges that JP Morgan's decision was, quote, final and unequivocal with no recourse, remedy, or alternative. $5 billion. All that for $5 billion. Now, if JP Morgan handles this case anywhere close to how we've seen other major corporations handle their cases with Trump, I think Trump could likely expect a settlement. May not be $5 billion, but it's going to be a lot more money than he had before. And it also affords him the opportunity to shift this public narrative around him being sort of the victim of these companies, as opposed to these companies being the targets of Donald Trump's retribution campaign. You see how this works? And so when we talk about the president and his administration enriching themselves, making money off of being in office, really profiting from their power, this is one example of what that can look like. When you have the sitting president of the United States that is suing a publicly traded company, whether that company violated the law or not, any sort of settlement is an easy win for, in this case, the president. And so for all the people out there that voted for Trump because you thought he was going to do better on the economy than the alternative, which was former Vice President Kamala Harris, is this what you sent him there to do? Was this at the top of your agenda? Is this what you sent him there to do? To turn around and file a lawsuit against JP Morgan Chase and their CEO for $5 billion? Is that what you want him focused on? Because according to a lot of the polls out there, this isn't what the people are asking for, nor what people believe they were signing up for. At least some people. Just saying. Finally, in other news, speaking of the White House posted a digitally altered image of a woman arrested after an ICE protest. She's not just any woman. She is civil rights attorney and activist Nikema Levy-Armstrong. You might remember she joined us live here on A More Perfect Union. I believe it was just last week, right after a mass protest in the wake of the ICE shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis. The Guardian is reporting that the White House posted a digitally altered image of a woman who was arrested on Thursday in the case touted by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi to make it seem as if she was dramatically crying. Yeah, again, the woman's name is Nikema Levy-Armstrong. She also appears to have darker skin in the altered image. Armstrong was one of three people you might remember who was arrested on Thursday in connection to a demonstration that disrupted church services in St. Paul, Minnesota on Sunday. Demonstrators allege that one of the pastors, David Easterwood, was the acting field director of the St. Paul Immigration and Customs Enforcement, basically the St. Paul ICE office. He was the acting director. That's what they alleged. And Attorney General Bondi announced the arrest on social media early this morning. When I woke up, my phone was jumping with this story being shared with me in a number of different ways. The Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem posted this image of Armstrong's arrest at 10:21 a.m. this morning, less than an hour after Bondi's announcement. The image shows a law enforcement agent, face blurred out, escorting Armstrong, who appears to be handcuffed. Armstrong, dressed in all black, appears to be composed in the picture. But a little more than 30 minutes later, the White House, yeah, as in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House, posted another image of Armstrong's arrest in which she's crying. The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reposted the image. The image posted by the White House is altered. The Guardian did a deep dive analysis, and that's what they found. The image was altered. You can see the DHS image and the White House image. The Guardian overlaid the White House photo with the Nome photo and found that the law enforcement agents in both pictures line up exactly, confirming that they're the same image. There are other similarities between the photos. An unidentified person can be seen in the same place behind the arresting agent, and the arresting agent's arms appear to be behind Armstrong's back in exactly the same position. What do we call this? Propaganda. That's what we call this. When you have White House officials that are posting and promoting fake images of Americans exercising their rights and being detained for such. When we come forward, we're going to convene a More Perfect Union Saving Ourselves Roundtable. I am delighted to welcome Bishop Joseph Tolton, the founder of Interconnected Justice, and civil rights attorney Todd Belcourt. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Light a candle, pour some wine. Grab a roll, the soft kind for a little me time. Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear. Wavy edges for my rear. So let the softness caress your soul. Just relax, you're on a roll. Let her rip. Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear.
Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear has the same softness you love, now with wavy edges that tear better than the leading one-ply brand. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents were sent to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, give me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm two. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes, and your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs, because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You gotta go to child support court. You gotta get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Your Honor. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room on one stage at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
You got to laugh the pain away.
Hit me.
National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
So that's what someone wrote to me. And again, it's one of many emails that I have received from these MAGA supporters, from people who have a problem with the fact that we came into the church to confront an injustice, and do not have a problem with the fact that you have an ICE director, not just an ICE agent, as some people have said, but the director of the ICE field office in the state of Minnesota, also serving as a pastor at City's Church in St. Paul. Someone help me understand how it's possible to hold both roles with integrity, with honor, because the gospel that I believe in, the foundation, says that we are to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Now contrast that gospel message to what we have been seeing by ICE and the terrorism that they have engaged in on the streets of St. Paul, Minneapolis, and surrounding suburbs, and including outstate Minnesota, where they kicked in the man's door and came in with big guns and took him out. And then NPR reported that when he got to the detention facility, they took trophy photos with him, like he was a slave or an animal that they caught out in the wild. And he wasn't the only one that they did that to. So somebody tell me, how is it acceptable for David Easterwood to be a pastor when he is condoning this kind of conduct? And not just condoning it through his silence when it comes to addressing it publicly with our community, but the fact that he was referenced in the lawsuit that was filed by the ACLU in December on behalf of 6 residents, calling out the retaliatory and abusive tactics by ICE. And you know what David said in that lawsuit? There is no evidence that this is going on. It's the protesters and their aggression that's at fault. We are asking City's Church to operate in truth and integrity and the true meaning of the gospel, and to recognize that David Easterwood's dual role as a pastor and as the director of the ICE office is a most definite conflict of interest, and it cannot stand.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and look, that video, the fact that Nakima Levy Armstrong was right here with us on A More Perfect Union recently. I have been shaken and stirred by it since learning about her arrest this morning. I just got word right before we went on air from a colleague over at the NAACP that has been following this very closely, that they've been in touch with her attorney. She's out of custody. It's worth noting that she's also a former NAACP branch president. Todd Belcourt, the executive director of social change and a civil rights attorney, joining us here during our Saving Ourselves roundtable. Todd, what's your reaction to that?
It's chilling. And I think when you say things like shaken and stirred, I think that's the perfect way to announce and really just articulate how it makes everyone feel. The fact that you just can't even have any sort of moment of protest, you can't exercise your First Amendment rights, you can't speak and bring light to facts that are in dispute for no reason, via propaganda and other mechanisms that you've been talking about. It's very chilling effect not only on the legal community, but of course the entire nation, as people are trying to figure out how they can speak out against this injustice and the terror that's being committed and engaged in by the administration. And if a civil rights attorney can be made an example of someone who's just peacefully protesting, who's clearly not a threat to anyone, then what does that mean for everyone else? So I think they're making an example of her. I'm glad she's standing up and fighting, but it is very chilling, and it is very much a moment that does make people feel shaken and stirred.
Bishop Joseph Tolton, founder of Interconnected Justice, also former senior advisor for religious and global affairs at the U.S. State Department, joining us. We have talked at length about white Christian nationalism and the clear and present danger it presents, not just here in the United States, but around the world. It seems to me that this case in Minneapolis of a pastor allegedly doubling as the director of an ICE field office in Minneapolis, is the kind of perversion that we often see when folks are embracing some of the tenets of white Christian nationalism and vigilantism. What is your reaction to this case? And say it plain to the people in terms of how alarmed we all should be about it.
First, I want to say that I'm deeply grateful that Nikema has been released, and I want to lift up the fact that she is in my prayers, and certainly I'm also praying for those that are standing with her. I obviously am feeling incredibly emotional about what has happened today, because this is now an incredible and direct and targeted assault on not just Nikema, but this is an assault on Black resistance. This is an assault on Black power. I want to go back to the 2024 election and lift up the fact that there were only two demographics of voters where Trump did not receive an increased share of the vote. And those two demographics were Black Jewish women and Black women. And so there has been a target on the backs of Black women, because in order to break the Black community, in order to not just disenfranchise us, but to have us disquieted and dispirited, he understands that he's got to go to our uber base, which is Black women. What do Black women represent? They represent the strength in our community. They represent caretaking in our community. They represent a certain kind of power in our community because of the ways in which Black male bodies have been so captured by the state through the penal system and through other measures. So this is a diabolically targeted assault in which Trump and his administration is saying, we see who you are, Black women, we see you, Lisa Cook, and we are going to continuously come for you, because we understand that if we can capture your imagination, your resilience, your strength, and your courage, that we can further decimate the political power within the African-American community, as well as our sense of resilience. This is also the administration's way of saying that dissent is not going to be tolerated. We are going to confine dissent, because we understand that in the 60s, you got in the streets and sang your way to freedom. We understand that in Soweto, they sang their way until the walls of apartheid fell down. Trump knows where what our secret sauce is. He understands our power. And when we get out into the street and hear the drum beats of faith and the voices of our ancestors, and when we begin to sing and have poetry and use the arts and use the art of preaching, that is how we're going to resist and set ourselves free. And this is the administration directly saying, I understand the source of your power, and I am going to attack it directly and with great intention.
And speaking of the attack on our community directly, especially those on the front lines that are resisting the authoritarianism that has fallen upon our country in no uncertain terms, a judge has declined to sign off on the charges against former CNN anchor Don Lemon. The Guardian reporting that a federal magistrate judge declined to sign off on charges against Don Lemon in connection with the protests at that Minnesota church over the weekend that Nikema Levy Armstrong was also involved with. The magistrate's decision enraged the Attorney General Pam Bondi. That's according to NBC News and CNN. The refusal just comes as Donald Trump and other allies have called for Lemon to be arrested after he attended and broadcast a protest in which demonstrators interrupted services at City's church in St. Paul over the weekend. It's worth noting that protesters said that they were there because a pastor at the church was the acting field director of a local ICE office, and videos of the incident went wild. The Justice Department did not immediately return comments on this. Todd Belcourt, what do you make of the fact that you have two examples of folks asserting their First Amendment rights? You have a member of the so-called free press in this country, Don Lemon, and you have folks like Nikema Levy Armstrong asserting her First Amendment right, her right to peacefully protest. And you have an overzealous Department of Justice that swiftly moves to make an example out of both of them. Today, all of us who enjoy our First Amendment rights should feel shaken and stirred. When we come forward, Todd, I want to give you a chance to react to this news. It seems that Don Lemon may be in the clear for now, but what does it mean for the rest of us in the near future? I'll give you a chance to respond to that when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with our More Perfect Union Saving Ourselves Roundtable when we come forward.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Talks continued Thursday as New York City nurses marked day 11 of the city's largest nursing strike. About 15,000 nurses walked off the job at New York Presbyterian, Mount Sinai, and Montefiore, demanding safer staffing, better benefits, and protection from workplace violence.
After 40 plus years working here, I had to file for unemployment.
Hospitals say rising costs and federal funding cuts remain a hurdle in negotiations. Chicago is accused of paying more than $26 million in overtime to ineligible employees. The city's inspector general says over 1,000 workers across 24 departments received improper overtime. Black Mayor Brandon Johnson says the administration is taking corrective action. And several HBCUs across the nation received email threats on Thursday. Law enforcement confirmed there is no ongoing threat and the emails originated overseas. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Diamond Bar crash on the 60 eastbound at Grand. These guys are out of lanes, but they're in the center divider. That drive is slowing from Nogales. The 57 northbound, it's pretty tough as well. I'm seeing a backup overall out of Orange, leaving Orangewood. You're on the brakes and stretches heading back to the 60.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Today, January 22nd, is the 20-year anniversary of Kobe Bryant delivering one of the most iconic performances in NBA history. January 22nd, 2006, Kobe dropped 81 points on the Toronto Raptors in the Lakers' 122-104 victory at Staples Center. In 42 minutes, Kobe made 28 of 46 shots and was 18 of 20 at the free throw line. He outscored Toronto by himself in the second half, 55-41. As electric as Kobe was that night, he was 19 points shy of the NBA's all-time single-game scoring record. That claim to fame belongs to Wilt Chamberlain. As a member of the Philadelphia Warriors, Chamberlain scored 100 points against the New York Knicks on March 2nd, 1962. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is one of 5 finalists for the NFL's Most Valuable Player Award. Stafford led the NFL with 4,707 yards passing and 46 touchdown passes. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yeah.
Still battling a thirsty lawn that guzzles water and drains your wallet? Let LADWP turn that patch of grass into a gorgeous drought-smart garden for free. We're talking a full California-friendly landscape makeover designed and installed by pros at no cost to you. That's right, LADWP does the work, you get the upgrade. Ready to transform your yard and save big? Visit ladwp.com/leap. That's ladwp.com/LEAP.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and feeling shaken and stirred. I've been feeling it all day, and I know I'm not alone. And I hope all of our leaders, learners, and listeners out there know that they're not alone. That there are certain headlines that just hit different. And though these are challenging times, there are certain headlines that make us feel like we're in the dark ages. And, especially being a platform that makes space for leaders on the front lines, the people that are about doing the work to build a more perfect union. Among those people, I believe that Nikema Levy-Armstrong is one of those people. And I can't imagine the horror of having your government, the Department of Justice, arrest you for asserting your constitutional right to peacefully protest, to speak truth to power, to call out hypocrisy where you see it. I suspect there aren't many. I suspect that this isn't just one pastor who happens to be doubling as an agent of ICE. The question is, what are we going to do about it? And it seems to me that the actions from the Department of Justice related to Don Lemon and Nikema Levy Armstrong are intended to scare us. It's intended to silence us. It's intended to leave us shaken and stirred so that we don't make a fuss. Todd, before the break, I was asking you what to make of Don Lemon's I can't call it a win, but his not being charged because a federal magistrate judge looked at the Constitution and looked at the facts that were being presented and didn't just do an honorable thing. It did the right thing. Yeah. They did the thing that the Constitution says that they should do. What do you make of the Don Lemon component of the story?
Well, I think it's important to highlight because that is supposed to be our only mechanism and window to what's actually going on in the streets. When you start to silence the media, you start to silence the protesters, you're not just silencing one mechanism of getting the word out, you're suppressing dissent. You're making it so people can't not only not engage in their constitutional rights, but you're actually starting to do more to control media. You're actually trying to do things to control with the politics, the ideology. And that's Klan 2.0 sorts of activity. When you consider the way he's weaponized the DOJ, can you consider the way ICE has turned into the modern day slave catchers? We consider the way that they're unapologetically espousing propaganda. These are characteristics that are more akin to a totalitarian regime than a democratic one. So I think the viciousness and the consistency and the pervasiveness of all these kind of depraved acts by the administration, even down to being mad that they threw out charges that clearly had no basis in the first place, shows how transparent and they are in their effort to terrorize our communities. And it's important that people are aware that not only should we fight harder than ever now, but we don't want this to spill over into preventing people from going to the polls, because the intimidation you feel now will only continue to accelerate and amplify as we get closer to the election time. And I think that's part of the overall playbook. But understanding what's going on is a part of it, but being able to fight against it is the second part. So I'm grateful for what you're doing and what the bishop's doing to bring power to all this and make sure more people know what's really going on. But at the end of the day, this is a time more than ever for us to band together and speak out on behalf of not just people like Attorney Armstrong, but also Brother Don Lemon and anyone else who's willing to put themselves in harm's way. And that's certainly what it is at this point. When you speak out and just tell the truth, that puts you in harm's way with this administration in order to make sure that our folks are not only heard, but their stories are told. And we have a chance to make sure that history indicates what's actually going on during this time period.
Bishop Tolton, Vice President Vance says that Minneapolis will be less chaotic if local officials cooperate with ICE. He conceded today that federal law enforcement officers have not been perfect in their handling of immigration enforcement in Minneapolis. But in his visit to the city, the vice president's main message was that the best way to reduce clashes around ICE operations would be for Democrats to just cooperate with the Trump administration's agenda. Where have we heard this before?
Well, it's actually quite amazing that these words can come out of the vice president's mouth. Essentially, what he's saying is, if you just take the knee, if you just bow down, if you just worship Baal, then everything will be all right. This is really about breaking the infrastructure as well as the will and the heart of those of us who are the vanguard on the left. We must revisit how we won our freedom. We built institutions in the area of civil society like the NAACP. We built strong independent media like the Pittsburgh Courier, or in New York, the Amsterdam News, around all sorts of cities that were heavily populated by African Americans. We had liberationist faith institutions. We built our own businesses. We built youth power and educated our young people, particularly through HBCUs ultimately. And now what is happening Each one of those pillars is being attacked systematically. We see that there is a real penetration happening in HBCUs around infiltrating those colleges and schools and universities with Christian nationalist ideology. There is an active engine that is trying to actually move that process along. We understand that even with our faith institutions, that they're trying to pick off some of our faith institutions. They use the great wedge issue and pit African Americans against those who believe in queer dignity. And here, when it comes to independent media, yes, Pam Bondi was really incensed that Don Lemon was not arrested, because it was her task to make an example of him, because those that are stretching out in independent media, I think, are doing an incredible job. Some of the larger and well-known independent media executives, like journalists like Don Lemon, like Roland Martin, or certainly Joy Reid, I think that they are overperforming. And even the work that certainly is done here by all of those working at KBLA, doing such excellent work. And there's fear that these kinds of institutions are going to drive a resistance that actually has impact. And so there is a systematic assault against all of the institutional pillars that uphold Black liberation. And we have to take heart, and we have to take courage. And of course, we're delighted that Don is out, but I think we have to be very clear about what the strategy is.
That's right. That's right. And we have to be clear about it, because there's a clear strategy that is emerging from this White House. We have talked at length about the president's threats to enact the Insurrection Act, to invoke the Insurrection Act. The Associated Press reporting that Vice President Vance says that the Insurrection Act not needed right now in Minneapolis. The vice president said that the Insurrection Act, quotes, wouldn't be needed right now in Minneapolis after meeting with ICE agents in the city, which has emerged as, of course, a national focal point in the clash over the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. The comments seem to echo a similar retreat by President Trump, who threatened to invoke the rarely used federal law to quell persistent protests against federal agents in Minneapolis, before telling reporters a week ago that there wasn't a reason to invoke the act at this moment. And so, Todd, talk to us about what you think they're up to. The president, sort of flirting with the idea of invoking the Insurrection Act in recent weeks, seeming to have escalated the rhetoric around invoking the Insurrection Act, now, according to reporting by the AP, seeming to walk it back for now. What do you make of this?
Fear, just an effort to stoke fear in communities of color, and there's no question that's going to be ramped up every month and continuously until the election comes. I think to the extent that the election has an opportunity for the nation to speak out and speak truth to how they feel the administration is doing, I think it's also important to recognize that if Trump believes that if he can control the voters, he can control the outcome. And he's going to control the voters by making people living in fear. When you're arresting 5-year-olds, when you're arresting reporters for reporting, I mean, all the things that are happening right now that are just so shocking to the conscience. It's of this level of depravity can't be without strategy. And I think the strategy is clear, that the effort is to not only to stoke widespread fear amongst people in terms of just speaking out and existing as a Black or brown person, but also to make sure that people know that when it comes time to vote, you better stay away from the polls, because otherwise ICE will get you. Otherwise DOJ will arrest you. Otherwise you'll deal with all these strife and struggles that people just don't necessarily have the capacity to handle. Not everyone has an attorney to help get them out of a federal case. Not everyone has the time to deal with being detained and trying to figure out how they can remain in the country when even they're being detained illegally. It still creates a significant rigmarole that not everyone can actually endure or navigate. So the Trump administration knows that, and I know if they make enough examples of enough people, it'll have a significant chilling effect on the entire community and maybe the entire resistance movement. But I think the good bishop was right. I mean, their tactics are clear, but that's why our resistance and our efforts to rebel have to be even clearer. That this is not going to keep us back. This is not going to silence us. It's not going to shut us down. In fact, it's going to embolden us, because this is our country. We built it. of this is everything that you see at the White House and beyond are because of Black hands. And we want to make sure that we continue to fight for what's rightly ours.
In our remaining minutes, Bishop, I want to give you an opportunity to share a call to action to our leaders, learners, and listeners for believers that will be visiting their house of worship over the weekend, particularly Christian believers, particularly pastors. What is your message? What's your call to action to clergy across the country who maybe haven't been as outspoken on the rise of white Christian nationalism, maybe haven't been as outspoken in terms of the lack of integrity that we're seeing in terms of the relationship between, or at least the alleged relationship between pastors and ICE, for example? What is your call to action to we as believers, but also leadership of the cloth?
I want to first just thank Brother Todd for particularly what he said at the end, because I think that him pressing us on our sense of courage and offering up hope is incredibly important. In terms of a call to action, first and foremost, I think that clergy now more than ever have got to make sure that within their churches, there is a social justice ministry that is vibrant. And I would really look to your young people to vision and to lead with regard to a social justice ministry. That's one. The second thing that I would suggest in our local churches is that these social justice ministries that are internal to the churches then connect with one of our civil rights institutions that we know is doing some very important work around rebuking white Christian nationalism. The National Action Network, certainly even the NAACP and its faith office, the Proctor Conference. These are all points of entry for local pastors to create opportunities for their congregants to get directly involved in this resistance. What I also want to lift up as a call to action, I think that it's time for seasoned and senior African-American clergy to call the leaders of white Christian nationalism on the carpet. I don't know if that's a full-page ad in the New York Times or some other vehicle where we literally begin to name Joyce Myers and Cheryl Brady and Joel Osteen and Paula Wright and the rest of the crew, and literally put their names on paper and suggest that there is a time and place where we have got to meet and make them appear or not, but either they're not appearing or when if they chose to appear, it's an opportunity to really hold their feet to the fire and have them have to answer for why they are silent, and not just silent, but actually supporting these kinds of tactics. We have to increase our sense of a radical imagination, and we've got to confront this now with tremendous courage.
If I may, Doctor, I also want to add the Bishop's point, the last one particularly about calling to the carpet. Why has that been such an incredible third rail for our religious leaders to call out other religious leaders when they're so clearly and transparently doing devilish work? That's the first time I've heard anyone say out loud, as you just said, and offered it. But it just makes me wonder, what is there some sort of unwritten rule that you just don't, call out others within, of the cloth? Or why has that been such a difficult thing to even fathom, let alone say and be a part of your call to action?
Absolutely. My answer to that would be that for many years, particularly in the Pentecostal world and even in the Baptist world, you have such an admiration for the white Christian nationalist movement in terms of its breadth and its reach, the mega churches, the television shows, the books, etc. And so I think that there's been this infatuation with and this desire to replicate. And that has undermined our sense of a particular consciousness. I'd also say that the gospel that we've preached of prosperity and kind of a rigid understanding of human sexuality has become such a central focus for the Black church that has softened the edges around our social justice imperative and our rebuke of social ills. And that distraction didn't happen randomly. I think that was seeded by white Christian nationalists. It certainly was across Africa, because that is what is used to distract faith leaders by pointing them in the direction of really American culture wars being their primary message and not this message.
When we come forward, I'm going to give you all a chance to share any final thoughts in our remaining minutes. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. Their max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You need someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We are live in afternoon drive time with Bishop Joseph W. Tolton, founder of Interconnected Justice, also former senior advisor for religious and global affairs at the U.S. State Department, and A More Perfect Union contributor. Todd Belcourt, he's also executive director of social change, and he's a civil rights attorney in demand. We've been talking about a lot of heavy stuff related to what's happening in Minneapolis and across the country. Today, leaving so many of us feeling shaken and stirred. This morning, learning about the Department of Justice arrest of Nii-Quartelai Levy Armstrong, a civil rights attorney and activist that's no stranger to A More Perfect Union. We learned this afternoon that a magistrate judge wasn't going along with what they were hearing from the Department of Justice. He opted not to charge journalist Don Lemon today. And so it is a victory for the First Amendment, full stop. But I want to give you both about a minute to share any closing thoughts you have for our leaders, learners, and listeners. Bishop?
I recently was in a conversation with the renowned Judith Butler. And one of the things that she said to myself and a few other people was, we have to stop believing that there are things that they won't do so that we're not continuously surprised. We've got to be clear that there's no ceiling, there's no floor. It will get worse and it will get worse. So I think that that is an important lesson for us to internalize. We've got to be clear about just how far the enemy will go. That's number one. The second thing that I want to say is that this is a global struggle. Our brothers and sisters and siblings in Uganda just went through another incredible crackdown, a shutdown of the internet, policing of those who are a part of the opposition party, tremendous intimidation. So this is happening all around the world. and the permission structure is coming from the United States. So we have an opportunity to connect with our brothers and sisters around the continent who are also engaged in this struggle. We are not fighting in this struggle alone. In Uganda, in Tanzania, in Sudan right now, there are freedom fighters, and we need to connect with them. The last thing I would say is that the Anglican Bishop of New Hampshire this week said to his clergy and his pastors, we are going to have to put our physical bodies on the line. And it might mean that there is martyrdom. I think that we also have to be clear that we are in this moment where we also may have to put our physical bodies on the line. And we have to do the healing kind of work that is necessary to prepare us to do that and to prepare our communities to take this kind of loss. It will get better. It will get better ultimately, but it's going to get worse before that happens. But courage and hope is on our side.
Todd, in about a minute, what's your closing thought to our leaders, learners, and listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we must fight fear with courage. We have to fight hate with love. We have to fight the oppression with organization and unity. And I think when you're talking about getting out the vote, that we can't wait until October to start working. That get out the vote effort needs to be beginning right now, going door to door, making sure our community members are heard, making sure they recognize the importance of getting their voice out, but also recognize they do the same for their neighbors. So that's what we're doing at Social Change, already working in Wisconsin and Georgia, to make sure that our neighbors are aware of how important this moment is, but more importantly, so we have an organization, we have a field team, we have boots on the ground that are capable of making sure Souls to the Polls is revived and make sure parties at the polls are revived, all the different things we have seen to be proven as successful tactics of getting out the vote. We want to make sure that we prioritize that. But also day to day, we're fighting in the legislatures as well. I mean, to make sure that some of this hateful messaging is not turning into hateful laws. And that's been a part of the struggle as well. So anyone who wants to get involved in any of those movements, we need you. Certainly grateful for the opportunity to talk to the good bishop and you, doctor. But if anyone wants to get involved, please check us out at socialchange.site or Shy Social Change on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, because the time is now.
The time is now, and we are out of time this hour. My thanks to Todd Belcourt, the Executive Director of Social Change, and Bishop Joseph W. Tolton, the founder of Interconnected Justice. Thank you both for your work and your witness, and come back again soon.
Thank you.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. A major winter storm is expected to impact millions from Texas to New York this weekend, bringing snow, ice, and freezing rain. Local and state leaders like Georgia Governor Brian Kemp are taking this very seriously, with Kemp declaring a state of emergency.
As always, our state team will be pre-treating and preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.